The Discovery captain, Alina Vasquez, stood quietly in the observation deck of the deep space exploration vessel Pathfinder, watching the endless darkness of space roll past the reinforced viewing windows. The ship had been traveling through the outer regions of the Andromeda spiral for 3 months now, conducting routine surveys of uncharted star systems for the Earth Colonial Defense Force. It was peaceful work. But Alina knew that peace in space was always temporary. The Pathfinder was one of humanity's most advanced exploration vessels, equipped with the latest scanning technology and designed to operate independently for years at a time. The ship carried a crew of 200 specialists, scientists, and military personnel who had volunteered for the dangerous work of mapping unknown regions of space. Alina had been commanding deep space missions for over 15 years, and she had learned that the universe was full of surprises that could change everything in a single moment. Dr. James Chen walked into the observation deck carrying a steaming cup of coffee and a worried expression on his face. He was the ship's chief communications officer and one of the galaxy's leading experts in xenolinguistics, the study of alien languages. Alina had worked with James on 4 previous missions, and she could tell from his body language that something important was happening. "Captain, we need to talk about something unusual that my team discovered during our routine monitoring," James said as he joined Alina at the viewing windows. "About 2 hours ago, our long-range communication arrays detected a signal that doesn't match any known pattern in our databases." Alina turned to face James with immediate interest. After months of routine scanning, any anomaly was worth investigating. "What kind of signal are we talking about, James? Is it natural or artificial?" James pulled out a small data tablet and showed Alina a complex waveform display. "It's definitely artificial, Captain. The signal is highly structured and appears to be some kind of repeating mathematical sequence. But here's the strange part. The signal is incredibly old, based on its degradation pattern and the way it's been affected by cosmic radiation. Our computers estimate it was first transmitted approximately 50,000 years ago." Alina felt a chill run down her spine as she processed this information. 50,000 years ago, humans were still living in caves and using stone tools. The idea that some ancient alien civilization had been sending signals across the galaxy for that long was both fascinating and terrifying. "Have you been able to determine where the signal is coming from?" Alina asked as she studied the data on James's tablet. "That's where it gets really interesting," James replied. "The signal is coming from a star system about 200 light-years from our current position. It's a binary star system with 7 planets, and according to our astronomical data, both stars are in the final stages of their life cycles. The entire system is becoming unstable." Alina walked back to the viewing windows and stared out at the stars while she thought about the implications. An ancient alien signal coming from a dying star system could mean many things, but her instincts told her that this was not just a routine discovery. "James, I want you to assemble your best linguists and communications specialists. I want that signal decoded as quickly as possible. Whatever message was sent 50,000 years ago, we need to understand what it says." Over the next 6 hours, James and his team worked frantically to decode the alien transmission. The signal was unlike anything they had encountered before, but gradually patterns began to emerge. The mathematics were complex but universal, and slowly the team began to understand the basic structure of the alien language. Commander Sarah Mitchell, the ship's head of security, arrived in the communications lab just as James was making a breakthrough. Sarah was a former military strategist who had requested transfer to exploration duty after growing tired of the constant conflicts between human colonies. She was tough, intelligent, and had an uncanny ability to sense danger before it became obvious to others. "James, the captain, asked me to check on your progress," Sarah said as she examined the banks of computers and displays that filled the communications lab. "Please tell me you figured out what our ancient aliens were trying to say." James looked up from his work with excitement and concern mixed equally on his face. "Sarah, I think we've cracked the basic grammar and syntax. The signal is definitely a distress call, but it's unlike any distress call we've ever encountered. It's not asking for immediate rescue from a specific emergency." Sarah felt her soldier's instincts beginning to trigger warning signals. "Then, what kind of distress call is it, James?" "It's a request for help that was designed to be transmitted continuously for thousands of years," James explained. "The aliens who sent this signal knew that their star system was dying, and they calculated that it would take millennia for their message to reach other civilizations. They've been broadcasting their coordinates and a plea for evacuation for 50,000 years. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. "You're telling me that there's an entire alien civilization that has been waiting for rescue for 50,000 years. "Not just waiting," James corrected. "According to the signal, they've been actively maintaining their civilization and keeping their technology operational while their star system slowly dies around them. They call themselves the Kithara, and they've been preparing for evacuation for longer than human civilization has existed." Sarah immediately activated her communication device to contact Captain Vasquez. "Captain, you need to come to the communications lab immediately. James has decoded the signal, and we have a situation that requires your immediate attention." Alina arrived in the communications lab within minutes, followed by Lieutenant Alex Rivera, the ship's youngest and most brilliant engineering officer. Alex was only 24 years old, but he had already earned a reputation for solving impossible technical problems with creative solutions that older engineers couldn't imagine. "Give me the full report," Alina commanded as she looked at the data displays surrounding James's workstation. James activated the main display screen and showed a computer-generated translation of the alien signal. The words appeared in simple English, but their meaning was staggering. "This is the Kithara Collective, broadcasting from the Helix binary system. Our stars are dying, and our worlds are becoming uninhabitable. We have maintained our civilization for 50,000 cycles, while waiting for contact with other intelligent species. We possess advanced technology and knowledge that we offer freely to any species that can assist in our evacuation. Our population is 12 million individuals currently residing on 3 remaining stable worlds. We await your response." The communications lab fell completely silent as the crew processed the magnitude of what they had discovered. Alina felt the weight of an impossible decision settling on her shoulders. The Pathfinder was an exploration vessel, not a rescue ship. They were equipped to study new worlds and make contact with alien species, but they were not designed to evacuate 12 million beings from a dying star system. "Alex, I need your honest assessment," Alina said. "Is there any way our ship could assist in an evacuation of this magnitude?" Alex studied the technical specifications of the Pathfinder on his portable computer. "Captain, our ship can carry a maximum of 2,000 passengers in emergency conditions. Even if we made multiple trips, it would take us 6,000 voyages to evacuate. Their entire population, at our maximum warp speed, each round trip would take approximately 8 months." Sarah did the calculations in her head. "That's 4,000 years of continuous evacuation flights. assuming nothing goes wrong and the dying star system remains stable that entire time. Alina looked around at her crew and saw the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her own heart. Humans had a reputation throughout the galaxy for attempting impossible missions and somehow finding ways to succeed. This was exactly the kind of challenge that defined what it meant to be human. James, send a response to the Cathara immediately. Tell them that the human vessel Pathfinder has received their signal and is en route to assist. Tell them we'll find a way to help them. James began typing the response message, but he paused and looked up at Alina. Captain, what should I tell them about our capabilities? They've been waiting 50,000 years for rescue. I don't want to give them false hope. Alina smiled with the confidence that had made her one of the youngest captains in the colonial defense force. Tell them that humans specialize in doing things that everyone else says are impossible. Tell them we're coming, and we're bringing our best ideas with us. As the response signal began transmitting toward the Helix binary system, Alina called for a full crew meeting. Within an hour, all 200 members of the Pathfinder's crew had assembled in the main conference hall. Alina stood at the front of the room and explained the situation clearly and completely. We have discovered an alien civilization that has been waiting 50,000 years for rescue, Alina began. They are facing extinction, and they have asked for our help. The mission appears to be impossible using conventional methods, but I believe we can find a way to succeed. Commander Mitchell stepped forward. Captain, I need to point out that this mission is far beyond our original parameters. We're explorers, not a rescue fleet. The risks are enormous, and the chances of success are minimal. Alina nodded. Sarah is absolutely right. This mission is dangerous, probably impossible, and definitely not what we signed up for when we left Earth. Anyone who wants to vote against attempting this rescue is free to do so, and I will respect that decision. A young communications specialist raised her hand. Captain, what happens if we don't help them? What happens if we just continue our original mission? Alina looked around the room at the faces of her crew. Then 12 million intelligent beings will die, and they will die knowing that someone received their call for help but chose not to respond. The vote was unanimous. Every single crew member voted to attempt the impossible rescue mission. Over the next 3 days, the Pathfinder changed course and began the journey toward the Helix binary system. During the voyage, Alex Rivera and his engineering team worked around the clock to modify the ship's systems for the rescue mission. They expanded the passenger quarters, upgraded the life support systems, and began designing completely new technologies that might make the evacuation possible. The ship's scientists analyzed every piece of data they could gather about the dying star system. They discovered that the Cathara had been incredibly accurate in their predictions. The binary stars were becoming increasingly unstable, and the planets in the system were experiencing massive earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and atmospheric changes that would make them uninhabitable within a few more decades. As the Pathfinder approached the Helix binary system, Alina stood once again in the observation deck, but this time she was not alone. James, Sarah, and Alex stood beside her, along with dozens of other crew members who had come to witness their arrival at one of the most important moments in human history. Signal from the Cathara, James announced. They're requesting permission to establish direct communication. Alina took a deep breath and prepared to make first contact with a species that had been waiting 50,000 years for this moment. Open the channel, James. Let's meet our new friends. The main display screen flickered to life, showing the image of an alien being unlike anything humans had ever encountered. The Cathara had tall, graceful forms with 4 arms and skin that seemed to shimmer with internal light. Their eyes were large and expressive, and their faces showed unmistakable intelligence and hope. "I am Elder Zethara of the Cathara Collective," the alien said in perfect English, having learned human languages from their signal exchanges. "We have waited many generations for this moment. Welcome to our home, brave humans. We are ready to begin." Alina smiled and felt the weight of history settling around her. "Elder Zethara, this is Captain Alina Vasquez of the Earth vessel Pathfinder. We've come to take you home." The Rescue the Pathfinder dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Helix binary system, and Alina immediately understood why the Cathara had been so desperate in their ancient distress call. The 2 dying stars dominated the view screen, their surfaces churning with violent solar flares that sent waves of deadly radiation throughout the system. The space around them was filled with debris from planets that had already been torn apart by the gravitational chaos of the collapsing stellar bodies. "My God," whispered Dr. Chen as he stared at the destruction displayed on the bridge monitors. "How have they managed to survive in this environment for 50,000 years? Elder Zethara's image appeared on the communication screen, and Alina could see the strain that millennia of survival had placed on the alien leader. Despite their advanced technology, the Cathara showed clear signs of exhaustion from their long vigil against extinction. "Captain Vasquez, our people have been monitoring your approach," Zethara said. "We must warn you that conditions in our system have deteriorated significantly, even in the short time since we established communication. Our remaining 3 worlds are experiencing cascading system failures." Alina studied the tactical display showing the positions of the surviving Cathara worlds. The planets were arranged in a complex orbital pattern that kept them barely stable despite the chaos of the dying binary stars. "Elder Zethara, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. How many people are on each world, and how much time do we have? Our first world, Cathara Prime, houses 6 million individuals in underground cities," Zethara explained. "The second world, Sanctuary, contains 4 million people in floating atmospheric habitats. The third world, Haven, protects 2 million individuals in deep ocean colonies. Based on our calculations, we have approximately 60 standard days before the stellar collapse makes evacuation impossible." Commander Mitchell ran the numbers through her tactical computer and looked up with concern. "Captain, even if we could carry 2,000 passengers per trip, we would need 6,000 voyagers to evacuate their entire population. At maximum speed, each round trip would take us 18 days. That's 108,000 days of continuous evacuation flights." Alina felt the weight of the impossible mathematics, but she also felt the determination that had carried humanity through countless challenges. "Alex, I need you to think outside the box. What if we don't use conventional evacuation methods? What if we find a way to use Cathara technology to supplement our own?" Lieutenant Rivera had been studying the technical specifications that the Cathara had transmitted, and his eyes lit up with an idea. "Captain, the Cathara have something we don't. They have 50,000 years of experience with advanced materials, science, and energy management. What if we could combine their technology with our warp drive systems?" Elder Zethara's expression showed interest. "Young human, what are you proposing?" Alex brought up a holographic display showing the Pathfinder's technical specifications. "The limiting factor in our evacuation capacity is not space, it's life support and transport logistics. But if we could use your advanced materials to create temporary habitat modules we could potentially carry hundreds of thousands of people per trip. Dr. Chen leaned forward with excitement. Alex, are you suggesting we essentially build a small city inside our cargo holds? Not inside, Alex corrected. Attached to our hull. The Cathara have materials that are stronger than anything we've ever developed. We could create external passenger pods that would be protected by their shielding technology and powered by their energy systems. Elder Zathera considered this proposal carefully. The concept is theoretically possible, but the engineering challenges would be enormous. We would need to integrate two completely different technological systems that were developed by species separated by thousands of years of evolution. Alina stood up and walked to the front of the bridge. Elder Zathera, humanity has a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. We've never had a greater necessity than saving 12 million lives. Let's make this work. Over the next 10 days, the most ambitious engineering project in human history began to take shape. Teams of human engineers worked alongside Cathara scientists to design and build massive passenger pod systems that could be attached to the Pathfinder's hull. The Cathara contributed advanced materials that were lighter and stronger than anything in human technology, while the humans provided the organizational systems and integration expertise needed to make the hybrid technology function. The first major breakthrough came when Alex discovered that Cathara energy systems could be adapted to boost the Pathfinder's warp drive efficiency. Captain, if we integrate their power cores with our warp matrix, we can reduce travel time by 70%. Instead of 18 days per round trip, we could make the journey in just 5 days. But even with these improvements, the mathematics were still daunting. Sarah Mitchell ran the updated calculations and delivered the results to Alina. Captain, with the new systems, we could potentially carry 50,000 passengers per trip. That reduces our required voyages to 240 trips, which would take 1,200 days of continuous operation. Alina looked at the timeline projections and felt her heart sink. Sarah, we only have 60 days before the stellar collapse. Even with all our improvements, we can't evacuate everyone in time. It was Dr. Chen who suggested the solution that would change everything. Captain, what if we don't evacuate them to Earth? What if we evacuate them to a temporary safe zone and then figure out a permanent solution? Elder Zathara's eyes widened with understanding. Dr. Chen, are you suggesting we establish a mobile colony? Exactly, Chen replied. The Cathara have been maintaining their civilization in a hostile environment for 50,000 years. They obviously have the technology to create self-sustaining habitats. What if we combined their habitat technology with our mobility systems? Alex jumped up from his workstation with excitement. Captain, I think I understand what Dr. Chen is proposing. Instead of making 240 trips to evacuate the Cathara, we make one trip to move their entire civilization to a mobile platform that can travel with us. Alina felt the pieces of an impossible solution beginning to fall into place. Elder Zeth, do your people have the technology to create a mobile habitat that could house 12 million individuals? We have the materials and energy systems, Zathera replied thoughtfully. What we lack is the propulsion technology to move such a massive structure through space. Our ships are designed for system operations, not interstellar travel. Alina smiled with the confidence that had made her one of humanity's most successful exploration captains. Elder Zathera, propulsion technology is exactly what humans do best. Let's build something that has never been built before. The construction project followed was unlike anything in the history of either species. Human engineers worked with Cathara scientists to design a massive mobile habitat that could house the entire Cathara population. The structure was built using advanced Cathara materials that were lighter and stronger than anything humans had ever seen, while human propulsion systems provided the power to move the enormous station through space. The mobile habitat was essentially a small artificial world, complete with atmospheric processes, agricultural systems, and residential areas that could support millions of individuals. The Cathara contributed their 50,000 years of experience in closed-system ecology, while humans provided the engineering expertise needed to make the structure mobile and space-worthy. As the construction project progressed, Alina found herself working more closely with Elder Zathera than she had ever worked with any alien species. The Cathara leader was brilliant, patient, and possessed a deep understanding of long-term survival that impressed even Elena's experienced crew. Elder Zathera, I have to ask you something, Elena said during one of their planning sessions. How have your people maintained hope for 50,000 years? How do you keep going when the odds are so overwhelming? Zathera smiled with an expression that transcended species barriers. Captain Vasquez, hope is not about odds or probability. Hope is about possibility. As long as survival is possible, we continue to work toward that goal. Your species seems to understand this instinctively. Alina nodded with understanding. That's exactly what makes us human. We don't give up, even when everyone else says the situation is hopeless. The mobile habitat was completed just 15 days before the projected stellar collapse. The massive structure was over 200 kilometers in length and housed complex ecosystems that could support the Cathara population indefinitely. Human warp drives provided the propulsion system, while Cathara technology supplied the life support and habitat systems. The evacuation began immediately. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Cathara population began leaving their dying star system. The process was carefully orchestrated, with populations from each world moving in organized groups to their new mobile home. Elena watched from the Pathfinder's bridge as millions of beings abandoned the worlds they had protected for millennia. The sight was both heartbreaking and inspiring. Elder Zathera, your people are incredibly brave. Leaving the only home they have ever known takes remarkable courage. Captain Vasquez, courage is not about being unafraid, Zathera replied. Courage is about doing what must be done despite the fear. Your people have taught us that survival is worth any sacrifice. On the final day of evacuation, disaster struck. The binary stars began their final collapse sequence 3 days earlier than predicted. Massive gravitational waves swept through the system, threatening to tear apart the mobile habitat before the evacuation could be completed. Captain, we're getting massive structural stress readings from the habitat, Alex reported urgently. The gravitational distortions are exceeding our safety margins. Alina made the decision that would define her entire career. All hands, prepare for emergency evacuation protocol. We're going to use the Pathfinder's shields to protect the habitat until everyone is safely aboard. Commander Mitchell immediately understood the implications. Captain, if we extend our shields to cover the habitat, we'll be completely vulnerable to the gravitational forces. The Pathfinder could be torn apart. Alina looked around at her crew and saw the same determination she felt in her own heart. Sarah, 12 million people are counting on us. We didn't come this far to fail now. The Pathfinder moved into position between the collapsing stars and the mobile habitat. extending its shields to provide protection during the final evacuation phase. The ship's structure groaned under the enormous gravitational stresses, but the crew held their positions and continued the evacuation. In the final hour before stellar collapse, the last group of Cathara civilians boarded the mobile habitat. Elder Zathera was among the final evacuees, and he personally thanked every human crew member before boarding. "Captain Vasquez, your species has given us something more valuable than survival," Zathera said. "You have given us hope for the future and faith in the goodness of other species." Alina smiled as she watched the mobile habitat engage its human-designed warp drives. "Elder Zathera, your people have given us something equally valuable. You've shown us that intelligence, patience, and determination can overcome any obstacle." As the combined human-Kithra fleet left the dying Helix binary system, Alina received a priority transmission from Earth Command. The message was brief, but profound. "Captain Vasquez, your actions have changed the course of galactic history. The Cathara have shared their advanced technology with the Galactic Council, and humanity has been granted full membership in the interstellar community." Alina looked out at the stars and felt the satisfaction of a mission that had seemed impossible. From the beginning, the Kithra had found a new home, humanity had gained respect throughout the galaxy, and the universe had become a little bit smaller and more connected. "James, send a message to Earth Command," Alina said. "Tell them we've completed our mission. Tell them we brought everyone home." As the Pathfinder and its massive mobile habitat companion jumped to hyperspace, Alina reflected on the lessons of the rescue mission. Humans had earned their reputation as a species that refused to accept defeat, but they had also learned that the greatest victories came from cooperation and mutual respect between different species. The Cathara had waited 50,000 years for rescue, and humanity had answered their call. In doing so, both species had discovered that the universe was full of friends they had never met and adventures they had never imagined. The rescue mission was over, but the real adventure was just beginning. Asterisk,